wanted to take a moment and share different ways of thinking about cueing or activations and parallel that with faults to help make this as effective for you as possible. We'll obviously have some specifics about pelvic floor or deep core activations, but here what we want to talk about in particular is what we see from a lack of like intention or cueing. So one of the biggest ones is because we don't have as much core strength here, one of the common faults is to use the lower back to help stabilize. So whether it's in an overhead position, Nichelle might not have she might have the range of motion, but because she doesn't have the core strength to help balance this off, she has to use her lower back to lock in extension to help stabilize the core or the spines. Okay, that's a big one. You'll see this too with going into a hip hinge position. Oftentimes in this position, we're so worried about not rounding the lower back that we actually hyper flare here. So that can be more of, hey, we're worried about doing something as opposed to not having the strength. So all the while when we come back up, we're going to cue things such as keeping ribs down, right? We don't want that rib to flare. It might be helpful to also do a slight tailbone tuck. And what we mean by that is if a tailbone tuck is like completely folded under, we're talking like a 3% tuck, which just gets that lower abdominal wall activated, right? So these are good cues to think about whether you're doing a hinge or even an air squat. Maybe there might be a ribs down cue that you think about or a slight tailbone tuck that you maintain. And then obviously we're going to integrate the transverse and the deep core activations with that, okay? Other ones is grounding, right? We talk about you're going to have more strength expressed when you are grounded. If Nichelle's off balance, her body doesn't want to express strength because she feels off balance. So cueing into the ground, one thing to think about is thinking about your arch here just lifting towards the earth. You might think about your ankle bone just shifting over too. We don't want to be rocking on our feet though, or doing a cue that causes toes to come up. Also, you might think about just screwing into the ground. And in doing so, you're going to feel tension build up into the legs, into the hips, okay? Other things too, we utilize this too. If Nichelle goes down into a plank, we do the exact same cueing with our hands. So to be strong in a plank position, we're going to tell her to bring the floor, push this away from the floor. And then we're also going to say screw into the ground, maybe a slight tailbone tuck, maybe a slight rib down to make this a lot tighter. And stand up. Right? So all of these tiny little cues can actually be the difference of a good exercise or not, right? So what we want to emphasize is by just simply doing the movement correctly, adding these small cue and variations will help prevent flaring and make the movements that more effective for the goals that we're trying to accomplish.